my kite too high or you're all right there?
So you want to go kite fishing? You got to have Kite. By far the best brand in the business is SFE. And you're going to see them in the skies all over South Florida. Typically, you'll see red or green ones. That's their standard everyday 15 to 25 mile an hour kite. It sticks in the air like Velcro, and that's important because when you actually start fighting a fish, you don't want to have to worry about the kite falling in the water. So every day you want to choose the kites that are going to stay in the air even when you're going backwards. Because if you have to wind the kite in every time you hook a fish, it's going to be laborious and it's not going to be any fun. So SFE makes a variety of wind speed kites. They have extra light. They're big white diapers, but they'll fly in 5 mile an hour if they have to. And if that won't work, you can throw some helium on there. Helium's a little more sophisticated, but that white kite with a little helium balloon, it'll stay up all day long as well. But day in, day out, your red or green 15 to 25 SFE is the kite that we all use. These kites are not inexpensive. They generally run from $100 to $150. And everyone knows stuff happens. Sometimes your kite's going to fall in the water. And just like it goes up in the air, its first move is to go down in the water column before you can retrieve it. SFE has a nice little spot right here where you put a piece of wax line or a little copper. Why did I do that? On your way out of the tackle store, always grab one little pack of balloons. Blow this balloon up, twist it on the back of this kite. It won't affect the flight at all, but if you should have any bad luck and it ends up in the water, this balloon is going to keep that kite on the surface till you can wind all your stuff in and go get it. For 4 cents and a piece of copper, you save $150 every time. It doesn't seem like much, but that's what that little ring's for. You should try it. You're usually going to be using 2 kites. And how are you going to fly 2 kites without them tangling? Well, you're going to make them bank. Coming out of the tube fresh, kite's going to fly straight off your rod tip. But you're going to want one to go off to the right. You want to go off to your left. How are you going to do that? Number 1 split shots. Placed anywhere from midway to the top corner, it's going to start the kite to tilt. And depending on your kite, the material it's made of, the stiffness, and every kite's unique. Sometimes one split shot will turn you the way you want to be. If you're not exactly north and south with your tips, you're not going to be happy with your bank. So then you add a second one, and it's experience. You got to bring it in, you got to bring it out, but don't give up. Once you get it right, it's set for pretty much forever until the kite gets wet. So some nice number 1 split shots, starting from upper half. Start with 1. This one's going to be a left flying kite, and I have 2 weights on here to make it fly like this. You'd think you want it to fly like that, but it's not going to. It's going to tangle with the other one. It needs to go like this, and it'll start to separate. So from halfway up, and I even pretty much do it from a quarter way up. Start with 1, and then add another one until sometimes you have to have 3. Every kite's different. 1's usually enough. 2's usually perfect. Your ultimate goal when you're rigging your kite to bank is for one of the legs to be pointing straight up in the air. And if it's doing that, it's going to start riding one direction or the other. So now we've got it banking. What else is left? Well, now it might be flying too high or too low. And that changes every day as well. If you're using goggle eyes, you want it a little higher up in the air because they're going to the weight of the goggle eye or a blue runner tends to pull the kite down. And it couldn't be any simpler. The SFE kite comes with a little cardboard clip on it, and there's 2 paint marks. And with the cardboard in between the paint marks, dead center, that's going to be a kite that flies right straight and true. But then we start banking it, you've got to have to make an adjustment. The shorter it is, the lower it's going to fly. The longer the braille is, the higher it's going to fly. And that's just a measurement of 1/4 inch for adjustment. Don't just move it from one color to the other. It's just going to either go from really high to really low or really low to really high. So just move it. It doesn't take much to make a kite that you've added weight to change its height. So again, this little cardboard piece right here, it slides forwards and back, and once you make the proper adjustment, it's going to fly right where you want it for the bait you're using that day or the amount of wind you're dealing with.
Low.
Needs to go a little higher than that. Let me make a little adjustment.
I like the far banking though too, bro.
I know.
Oh yeah, boys. It's gonna happen.
Listen, when you're tournament fishing, you have a lot of kites. We have 20. We have doubles, triples, quads of everything. But then again, we're competing for money all the time. If you're just going out on a Sunday to catch something, you can't afford to buy 20 kites, but you can afford to buy 2. And there's the two to go with. I've shown you the red and the green, 15 to 25, and then this is the high wind. It's got the holes in it to let the gusty wind roll through it. This thing will stick in the wind from 20 plus all day long, up to 30, 35. I don't want to be out there. It's blowing harder. You don't either. But this is the high wind kite from SFE. It's built to let that gusty wind roll right through it. When it goes up, it stays up. This kite does not like to wobble. Again, we're going to do the same thing we did with the 1525. When we get the number 1 leads, we're going to snip them on there. We're going to fire it up. And we're going to try to get it to tilt. It's a little harder to tilt when it's blowing 30. But these kites are designed for it. They let the wind through, and it's going to tilt like that. And you're going to be able to fire up your 2 kites. But if you can only have 2 different choices, you're going to want the black one and a red or green one. You've got your kite tackle. You've got your kite. You've got your kite up in the air. You got your baits deployed. The most important part about getting the baits deployed is getting the kite in the air. Kites want to fly, but they need clean wind. What do I mean by clean wind? You got to have your buddy. You got to have your boat driver, whoever it is. They got to put the bow into the wind. It doesn't seem like that's a no-brainer, but you can't just be sitting there and say, put the kite up. You guys have to have a little teamwork. We need to have the bow pointing into the wind. Sometimes you might have to wiggle it a little bit to the left or to the right to get whichever particular kite side's going up. But you want to offer that kite clean wind. If you just give yourself a few extra minutes of thought and timing, the kites are going to both go up beautifully and clean, and they're not going to fall in the water. You're not going to have any catastrophes. Nobody wants a catastrophe. All right, we've got the kites up, got your goggle eyes, thread fins, ballyhoos, pilchards all wiggling. Everything's happy. You're not done yet. It's not time to crack that beer open yet, or whatever beverage of your choice. Now we've got to put somebody to work. Yourself, your friends, your mates, your significant others. What does that mean? They have to work the kite baits. You've got the bait in the water. You got the waves going up and down. You've got the kites rising and lowering. It's a constant all-day battle keeping your baits exactly on the surface. And it's not a big deal, but you just have to be alert. You have to keep the reel in free spool with a clicker. Keep the clicker from keeping the bait from overrunning. Keep the clicker on so in case a tuna bites, you don't get a bird's nest. Keep the clicker on just to let you know something's going on that you might not see. Now you got your kites up and your baits in the water, it's time to keep the baits on the surface. Constantly keeping them up when they want to sink, keeping them down if they fly out. Fish aren't jumping 6 feet out of the water, eat a dangling dead goggle eye. So you want to keep that fish always on the top 3 feet. You can send one down 15 feet every now and then, but overall, you want your whole spread tails kicking. just send out vibrations saying, come and get me, come and get me, come and get me. And it's just a matter of finding your bait, find your cork. If the cork's wet, race it to the top. If the cork's too high and your bait's dangling, drop back down. It's all day long, up and down, up and down. And once you get good at it, it's just like breathing. It's just, oh my God, I'm letting some line out, winding some line up. Communicate. If I hear a buzzer going off or a clicker screaming, I'm ready. What's going on? If I'm working a bait, I'm just going to tell the captain, checking my bait, winding my bait up, dropping my bait down. That way, a good communication makes for even better day of fishing.